Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Stay Focused podcast. Today I got a very, very special guest. Someone, if you watch sports at all, you've seen his highlights run across your screen. But without further ado, let me introduce former Pro Bowler, first team All Pro, and of course, Super Bowl champion for your New York Giants, David Tyree.
What's going on, family? How's everything going?
Man, thank you so much for doing this, brother. It's been a while since I've had an athlete on the podcast, so it's definitely refreshing to get back to my roots, especially the NFL. But man, let's start. Let's take it back, man. I know you're a Jersey guy, Montclair High School,
Yep,
um,
yep,
state champion.
absolutely. Couple times.
Man, take me back to those days, man. I know y'all. I know you played defense as well, where you eventually went to the next level. At take me back to your high school days and take me through your state championship season.
Oh man, it was special. So Montclair is one of those public schools. It's changed a lot now with the way sports has changed, of course. But one of those storied public schools that has a championship pedigree. So my freshman year, we actually win a state championship. Didn't play much at all. It was tough to get on that varsity. And then we lost another state championship my sophomore year, which we were like overwhelming, supposedly win this game. So my championship my junior year against Union was special. First year as a full time starter, played like I said, played a decent amount as a sophomore emerging player. But I'll never forget it because I'm talking about it was in the playoffs. We played against Quentin Spotwood, who I ended up playing with at Syracuse, Al Hawkins, who's one of the most recruited quarterbacks, and it was just like, and I end up having this opportunity to catch a go-ahead touchdown
Yeah.
that would send us to the playoffs, and I dropped the pass.
Oh man.
So, hey, so that all that is to set up, you know, that sophomore season that leads us into the energy of my junior year campaign, and it was kind of like a coming out party. I played defensive end. It was funny. One of my best friends, he inspired me in my athletic journey. He went to Virginia Tech. He was playing linebacker. I'm probably 20 pounds less than him. He playing linebacker. I'm playing D end. So I just had that dog in me, man. At the end of the day, I just wanted to play the game, play both ways. And we got busy against Union, which was another story, public school in New Jersey. And I think we mopped them up 20-0. And it got so bad toward the end they wanted to fight us.
Oh man.
And I ended up scoring my first touchdown. And at that time it was Giant Stadium. Now it's MetLife. But yeah, that was my first touchdown in Giant Stadium as a junior. It's special, man. It's nothing like, we didn't have Friday. We played on Saturdays
Okay.
at Jersey at that time. Some schools did play on Friday, but we was more on the Saturday pedigree. But, there's nothing like high school football and the memories that you take with it.
Man. What size school was it? Like, was it a big high
Yeah,
school or a smaller school?
big high school. At the time, it was
Okay.
group 4. It might be group 5 now, but at the time, so yeah, we played with the big boys. Um, you know, and I mean, we were consistently ranked. The sad scenario was my junior year. We were ranked 11th in the country coming
Oh,
in
wow.
the season. USA Today ranked 11th, and we didn't even make the playoffs.
Oh,
And
man.
so, you want to talk about some leadership lessons along the line? I got them because
Yeah.
I learned the hard way how much character is connected to leadership.
Man, and I'm in Texas, so obviously high school football is huge here. Huge,
Ooh-wee.
so, yeah, I've
Y'all
always
listen,
been a
y'all definitely set the standard. We found out that football is religion in Texas a little while ago.
right, absolutely, see, so, man, yeah, I've always been a big high school, follower, like, I love watching people progress from high school to college and then all the way to the NFL. I definitely started watching football more around your era, more around that '02, '03 era, '01. That's really when I started really getting into it. The town I was from was always making deep state runs, a town called Marlin. They're like a two-way school, in Texas, so a very small school now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always so interested in high school football, man. So that's why I like to start there and kind of work my way back up, man, because high school football is something else. And like you said, you hear even pro athletes talk about it all the time, man. Like there's nothing
Oh,
like it. Those Friday night lights, or in your case, Saturday night lights,
yeah, we
man.
had
Like,
Saturday morning.
yeah. Or yeah, Saturday
Nah,
morning, so you didn't get to play under the
listen,
lights that much.
we probably had 1 game a year where we played under the lights, and it was like,
Wow.
Jersey there wasn't that many places that had lights. So a lot of games at that time was now you got more, like I
Right.
said, I'm Asian a little bit, but that was obviously a big thing, so many other places. But it
Man,
was like 1 game a year, Clifton every year, another big public. Play them if we played there, they had lights, so we play on Friday. So yeah, it was a whole different energy that goes with Friday night lights and pep rallies and all that. But nah, high school is nostalgic, and honestly, me going into high school was a big turning point. I was having my little, middle school run-ins. Or am I gonna be a thug? Am I gonna be, like
man,
so it was literally that freshman year where, it was a burning fire that just was like, yo, man, I think I had an injury in 8th grade, and I came back off that injury looking weak. I came looking,
man,
oh man, and my dog was the best player on the team. He look at he the best player, he killed the game. And we watched the whole summer, man. His highlights of me looking weak, coming back off an injury. And that thing is what set the burning course. That kind of just gave me this opportunity through sport. So nah, high school is precious.
absolutely. And you obviously you go to the next level, you go to Syracuse. What was the recruiting process like for you? Was it always Syracuse? Did you have a lot of offers to choose from? I know that's kind of close to your area.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the time, Syracuse was the top dog in the Big East. This
Mhm.
old Big East.
Yeah,
Big
yeah, yeah.
shout to the old Big East. But
Man.
they were early on the trail. My junior year, and I'll tell you what, it was nothing like getting that first piece of mail. At the time, it was just questionnaires. It was Ohio State and Syracuse my sophomore year getting questionnaires. So just seeing a Division One, and this was my dream. My dream was always to play Division 1A.
Right.
I didn't really actually have NFL aspirations.
Oh,
Something
wow.
about that purity of the college sport at the
Yeah,
time.
most
You know
definitely.
you know, it was nostalgic, just seeing Florida State, the Gators,
Uh,
mirror viruses. That was Steve Spurrier at the time. It was just special at that time looking at some of these guys, but seeing that first piece of mail, so that was early on, and by my junior year, after my junior year, I think they actually were the first offer. I think I had 7 offers my junior year,
yeah, yeah.
and so early on the trail, I think it was Rutgers, Syracuse, NC State, um, and it was mostly Big East schools, probably Temple was trash at I mean, what it was bad. Rutgers and Temple was doing real bad at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um, it and but it was definitely 7 schools I had, and then I had an explosive game my senior year.
Mhm.
Again, we were ranked 11th in the country, and parochial schools run the whole state. They have super conferences in Jersey, so
Yeah.
we always played Bergen Catholic every single year. They were in our conference. At that time, we played the big boys. Um, and we beat them my junior year, which made it so special that championship season. First public to beat them in like 6, 7 years. So that's like my high school boast,
Right,
beating
right.
Bergen Catholic. And but we end up playing another. We actually had the 2 best parochial schools on our schedule for my junior and senior year. We lost a shootout 49-40. And they probably had, I mean, you're talking about they had 300 pounders on the line, 280 to, like they had like a 280 pound. I'm playing D and I'm selling out every
Oh.
play. But I had like 198 yards receiving, 60 rushing, like 60 returning kicks. I think I had like 10 to 15 scholarship offers after the first.
Oh,
So
wow.
all the schools that are recruiting me, I think I ended with like 20 to 25 somewhere. All the schools that recruited me were basically offering me then. So took my visits to Syracuse, Virginia, Iowa. I canceled. I just got tired. I ain't gonna
Yeah,
lie.
yeah, yeah.
Nebraska wanted me for defense. The black shirt. That was a storied
Mhm.
legacy, and they were still solid at the time.
Yeah.
And Hal Mummy was running the air raid with Tim Couch era over
Right.
at Kentucky. So Kentucky canceled Kentucky. And but yeah, after going to Syracuse on my visit, man, it was just like I said, from day one, it was there from day one. Only visit I took my mom on me, with me. She didn't need to be with me anywhere else because I was acting a plum dumb fool.
Man. Yeah, can't take her
Eh,
everywhere.
oh man, but she came with me to Syracuse, and honestly, just seeing her in a room, we sitting there. Um, she gave me that big old goose egg smile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Alright, we good," and I just canceled the rest of my trip. So, it was a dope experience, man, totally different. The phone was everything. So,
Right.
And I was really kinda handling my whole recruiting process so much different in the day. Parents, obviously, right, respectfully involved.
Mhm.
It was pretty much me, man. My probably I update my parents, who I was
Yeah.
talking to, how often, big box of letters. I think my dad might still have my letters, and,
Yeah.
Urban Meyer was the guy who recruited me at Notre Dame.
Oh,
They didn't
okay.
offer me, so, I didn't, I actually took an unofficial to Notre Dame. So that was kinda like my start, to be recruited by Notre Dame was obviously a big deal.
Right.
They didn't come in for too many players,
Right.
but, so I give Urban a big shout because he saw something in me, that materialized, even in high school.
Absolutely, and what stood out to me was you also had some great receiving stats, but the 6 block punts and
Yeah.
at Syracuse, that really
Yeah,
stood out. I was like,
yeah.
man, because I really didn't know, too much about your defensive past, until I did, like, a deep dive. Talk about that, man, the importance that kinda goes unnoticed at times, I feel like, with special teams, but obviously, that's what helped you along the way. Talk about that, man, that impact in your life, just being on special teams and being a part of that.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, it's funny, that is what I obviously paved the pathway, and I always prided myself on being the best football player, not necessarily just trying to be the best wide receiver. I wanted to be the best on the field,
Right.
and never was I actually the best or most talented. You know,
Mm.
um, I got the high school superlative for most athletic, but
Yeah.
my boy got recruited just a little. He was the county player of the year. He's a lineman.
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
monster. Played 3 years, so I was always second fiddle in some way. Um, Now athletic, yeah, but when I think about the journey to that it was obviously a built-in mindset. I wanted to make every play. So the idea of coming off the field was never attractive.
Man.
Um, and so that it wasn't, so everything ties to mentality, obviously. You talk, about stay focused. But the special teams thing, I didn't go to Syracuse to become a special teams player.
Right.
And then that wasn't it. Like
Yeah.
I go there, I'm not that guy, like Kevin
Man.
Johnson, All American, Quentin Spotwood, All American, Donovan McNabb throwing darts.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right. Yeah.
it was like it was wild. We were supposed to catch it at 90% clip,
Man.
and I think I was catching like 76%. I'm out there with no gloves on. I hear butt naked, with the butt nakeds got
Right,
his
right,
hard
right.
opinions,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't measured up. So I got that red shirt, and I couldn't live with myself on the bench. So I saw special teams as an opportunity to prove that I belong in the game. And that's really it. Like my whole thing was they shading me right now. Now, as a redshirt freshman, I actually won the third wide receiver position. And I had to go through, I'm not sexy. I'm like an old Cadillac, man. I'm like an old
Yeah, yeah.
1967 camshaft, old
Yeah.
school. It's gonna take a little while to warm
Absolutely.
up, but when she running, she faithful. I'm talking about made with
Man.
steel. I ain't talking about made with carbon fiber. Like
Right. Right,
so,
exactly.
they might talk about built different. That's who I was as a wide receiver. I wasn't the fastest. I'm not a quick twitch guy. So all the things that when you assess a supreme talent, I guess you could say I just didn't fit the bill. But every time
Right.
I measured up against my peers, I would outcompete.
Yeah.
So, so I would always outcompete and I did not have to deal with the politics. So yeah, special teams how I got mine. I'm like, I'm gonna go out here and tag somebody
Right.
inside the 20. I'm gonna go out here and block a punt. Yeah. So by my sophomore year, I blocked 3 punts. My sophomore year,
Yeah.
I took one right off the foot against Buffalo, ran it
Man.
in for a touchdown. That was crazy work. Uh, but I just had fun with it. I love the game. I wanted to be the best football player, not just the best wide receiver, and that was really the mentality. And I was thankful, man. I think 3 years in a row, that was my crowning glory.
Right.
Virginia Tech ended up being, of course, a rival school, and I was able
Yeah.
to block a punt 3 years in a row against Virginia Tech, and then
Right.
have, the swan song game of my college career
Yeah.
my senior year. But it was just an amazing journey, man, amazing, amazing experience, and obviously paved the way for me in the league.
Yeah, 9 receptions, 229 yards against Virginia Tech, man. Did that game kinda break you out, like, were they, "Oh, he can play receiver too," like, obviously, the spotlight was probably on you as a special teams guy. And then
Yeah.
once you did that towards the end of your college career, was that kind of like, okay, like we got a spot for him on possibly offense as well in the NFL?
I think would it at least opened up scouts to the realities that I could
Mhm.
make plays,
Yeah.
because I just was never in position to in a on a large scale.
Right.
Syracuse was it was such a complicated offense and it was so detailed. Um, they would do some bonker stuff, man. Like, we would make the left the strong side and have eights going to the left. Like anybody knows football is like you run left is odd numbers. You run right.
Right,
Syracuse
right.
was wild. So you had to like reprogram yourself.
Oh, man.
But that prepared me at a higher level with the NFL. But what I will say is that that level of preparation, they would do things like have groupings like bigs and small,
Right.
like basically like fast guys, quick guys, and big, and they had me in there doing the dirty work,
Man.
right? So there was packages for that, but it was mostly crossing routes underneath, and they overthought things,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
say that smart people, that's what caused them to be successful and have an amazing run. But I was a guy with pedigree. And at the end of the day, if you couldn't see it, it's like how you could just see a guy, he just got something with him.
Yeah.
He's not all world, but he just got something with him. That's the only
Right.
way you could explain it.
Right.
And because there were times where I look raggedy. There was times where I looked like I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you just had to have somebody believe. And that Virginia Tech game was just a shining moment. I think that at least opened up those scouts and say, okay, who's this guy? He's a monster on teams.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably not sure, but maybe somebody we should look at.
Man, this question just kind of popped in my head, but as someone who has played both sides of the ball at during the same period of time, when you see someone like Travis Hunter who just won the Heisman Trophy, can you kind
Yeah.
of put in perspective how hard that is? Like for people who may be like, yeah, he does this really well and he does this well, but he's not the best player. Like how hard do you think that would be to play literally almost every snap in the college level?
It's a level of endurance that, number one, just the mindset.
Yeah.
And I said he deserved it. I was a big fan of the running back season. I
Right,
think
right.
Travis deserved it, not just because of the execution. He was so good enough at corner where they probably didn't want to try him, but he still, I think, had 4 picks.
Right, right.
Um,
Right.
and so if you tried him, it was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Then he goes and dumps 1,000 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, great quarterback. No shade to Shador, but goes jumps and becomes a full-time weapon. You're
Right.
talking about over 100 plays at the highest level of football in college, right? Like
Yeah.
now, I was doing. Actually, he's probably special teams. I'm clocking 30 to 40 extra plays, even on special teams again.
Right. Right.
So I said, I wish they had a GPS in my era. I would
Man.
have broke that sucker.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
but again, most people they want to come off. They want to do the sports science thing, and that's what I loved about Travis Hunter. That's what
Man.
he wanted to fulfill that measure of
Yeah.
greatness. He certainly shouldn't try it at this league. Not to say they couldn't throw him in there
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a whole nother level.
Right,
It's a
right.
whole nother level of demand.
Yeah.
And there's some superior athletes like a Travis
Absolutely.
Hunter who can do that, and it's rare. Obviously,
Absolutely.
we haven't seen that level of output maybe ever.
Right.
Maybe ever, actually, if you really wanna be honest, and that's why he
Man.
deserves it.
That yeah, yeah, it's definitely fun to watch. But yeah, I want to get your perspective on that because, some people I don't think they really understand like how good he really was this year, especially. And to win the Heisman, obviously. He'll probably be a top three, maybe at least a top five pick, probably top three though. What position do you think he plays in the NFL?
He needs to play
Primarily.
DB. Yeah, I think he needs to play DB 100%.
Okay.
He's light in the booty. He light in the booty,
Yeah.
and I think he's really good as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I I think at the NFL, he would be like a 3.
Okay.
Like he would be like a 3. If he was in the starting, he'd be
Right.
a 3 as a starting receiver in today's league.
Yeah.
But but I don't think I think he's all world talent. I don't know if he's all world wideout,
Right.
but I do believe he's all world DB in a sense as far as skill set, potential, and that's where you want to be. Honestly, like it's not that many true lockdowns. I think he's in that mold athletically skill ball
Mhm.
because what separates the best DBs is the ability to actually catch the interception.
Right.
It's like
Right.
we
And he's
it's
got
some,
hands for sure.
and he got hands, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's some other good DBs that just don't catch
Man.
all the pick, So, you make 3 interceptions, you drop 3, that's the difference between being all pro and being a really good DB. It might be the difference between 40 million and 60 million. So
Right,
it's
and
those kind of things where I feel like Travis definitely has an advantage as a DB as well as size.
yeah, and you can always throw him in on the offense as like a slot guy or a gadget, a gadget guy, whatever you
Absolutely.
wanna do with him.
Hey,
Ironically, I think the Giants have the 3rd overall pick. I think they have number 3,
yeah.
so if they take quarterbacks with the first 2, hey, you never know, he could be a Giant this year too.
Listen, you never know. I think it's a pop-up, it's a mystery.
Mhm.
Um, the obviously the glaring need is as the quarterback possession. Are they gonna go through
Right.
the draft
Right,
to
right.
do that? That
Yeah.
becomes a real question
Yep.
if they're looking at an alternative route. Because let's just be honest, like these the quarterback is these 2 quarterbacks, whether you go 1 Cam, 2 Shador,
Mhm.
um, this is not they wouldn't be that last year, right? Like, this is
Right,
not a
right.
scintillating quarterback class. This is a
Absolutely.
good is good, and they could be something, but it's not like a guarantee.
Right.
So, if you really wanna be honest, like, they could go another route, in light of how deep the need is. Do you wanna swing the bat on these guys that you might not have drafted in the 1st round last year?
Right, right.
So, it's gonna be interesting to see how desperate they are and where they go, but because they got genuine pressing needs in other places that, that could merit that from a talent perspective, and maybe Travis could be a part of that solution, I'm not sure.
Man, and obviously for you, man, speaking of the Giants, 6th round pick, and I think you said in the past you weren't really expecting to get drafted.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to get that call?
Man, it's special, man, but it was wild because 2-day draft back then,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't be like anything. I didn't go to a Pro Bowl. Excuse me. I didn't go to all I had was my pro day. I didn't go to an All-Star game.
Right.
I wasn't like on the junior list. Like me, like there was nothing for me to say like, yo, man, you got this locked. But when you start hearing, hey, man, you can go as high as the 4th, you can go
Mm.
or not at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's weird, but that's actually true.
Yeah.
And there's so many hidden little factors because the fact that I got drafted is wild
Yeah.
when I didn't even really, like I said, no combine, no all-star game, and just a pro day. Ran well, I think 4.46, 4.47. Not my best ever, but solid. Um, but hey, just a couple teams ran me in. So getting that call, I'm actually snoozing because it's a long day watching this draft.
That's what I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you if you were watching or if you were just off
Yeah,
somewhere doing
man,
so
I was asleep, but I was dozing, man.
Yeah, yeah.
My boy got drafted in the 5th by Seattle. Chris Davis is a fullback, so I was super for him. 6th round rolls around. I'm starting to kind of teeter off a little bit. Phone rings, and it's the Giants. And I definitely didn't have any workouts with them. Can't barely remember meeting with them.
Man.
So it was, they talking about they about to get me, and I'm on hold. Now, it was interesting is not too long, I'm like, phone ring. And all of a sudden, I pick it up. It's the Lions. I'm like, okay, we're getting saucy now. So, and it was hilarious because the special teams coach for the Lions ended up being the father of my special teams coach that I had with the Giants, Prefer. So, man, short story, they had the first pick of the 7th. Giants, they end up picking somebody else. I see like a pick go across like 199,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yo, Detroit on the other line, they talking about they about to get me. They're like, nah, nah, we got you, man. Uh, we're putting it in there. But they had 3 compensatory picks in the 6th
Right.
round,
Right.
199, 206, and I think I finally ended up going at 211
Yeah.
before Detroit was able to get in there. So, it was fun. And all of a sudden, I'm snoozing. All of a sudden, I got the hotline. It was just me and the family, mom and dad, super excited, and all of a sudden I realized I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
So, it's special, man. It's special to kinda be wanted, right? To be chosen, and there's even some spiritual revelation. Being chosen is something that,
Man.
that's kinda like sacred. It's like having like a pickup game. You just why this person versus the other, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean someone's not qualified, but you're chosen, and that's kind of how I've grown up and understood the draft. It's a special experience in that way where, okay, somebody wanted me. Somebody was able to put down a few extra dollars just to make sure they had me, and, it was nice to make good on the return.
Absolutely, yeah, and the guy that went before you was Frank Walker at 207. Um, obviously, the name that stands out in the draft as well is OCU Umenyiora,
Oh, man.
Visante
Yeah,
Shanko at
yeah.
tight end. Yeah, there's a great draft cast. David Deal, the guard. William Joseph was the first round pick. So,
Yeah, he was probably our
hey,
only bust, if you wanna call it,
right,
he
right,
was
right,
probably
right.
our bust. Kevin Walters ended up getting cut, but he had a longer career than me. It's in the 7th round.
Yeah,
Willie P plays short primarily as a special teamer.
yep,
Frank Walker plays 10 years. David Deal has an iconic career. Vashonda
yeah,
Shanko plays 10 years.
yeah.
OC is a Giants legend. Uh,
Man,
I end up doing my thing 7 years.
yeah, man.
And they're probably, so now the Giants at the time they were super proficient, um, pedigree on and off.
Yeah. Definitely known for that defense led by OC, for obviously Michael Strahan, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but man, going into the NFL, man, obviously you were kind of overlooked, I guess, in a sense, until the big game, the Super Bowl, which everybody knows, the catch. I was mad at you for a long time after that, I'm not gonna lie. Cost my boy
I
Randy a
love you,
Super
but
Bowl.
I love you, and please forgive me. I get free hugs to all Patriots fans and everything. They free.
Man, all is forgiven now, you're here, right? All is forgiven.
Oh,
I it's funny, one of my best friends is a Patriot guy, so once he sees this, he's gonna be like, "Bro, like, talking to the enemy over here." But,
I love you.
man, what is it like for you? Because going into that week, I've heard things like you were struggling during practice. I think there was an interview
Really,
where Michael Strahan was talking about you, like, we had to get on him, like, "Bro, like, what are you doing?" And, like, there were
bro.
even on the NFL films when they were like, he was struggling during practice. He had a
Yeah,
horrible week. And then that last drive, man. But the question I had, man, is when you made the catch in that moment, do you realize what kind of a catch it was? Or did it take you like looking at the replay to kind of be like, whoa?
man. So I certainly didn't know.
Yeah.
Now I always gotta, and no correction because I tell you what, it made this whole story made for an amazing story.
Right,
But
right,
I
right.
actually had one practice that was horrific.
Okay, one practice. Okay,
Friday
okay,
practice.
okay.
But, folks tell a story, right? It's like
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey.
that Friday practice was probably so bad, it felt like I dropped everything all week.
Right, right.
But I put that on Plaxico's tab because, I was doing all his reps. Again,
Right. Okay, okay.
but it's a fun story because I'm a special teams guy. I got all these
Yeah.
reps. Now I'm doing starting wide receiver reps, and I was never a starting wide receiver. It was wild.
Man.
But by God's grace, flip the switch. When I make this catch, I have no idea. I just knew it was a great catch. I know I'm high pointing the ball. I'm just like, man, give me a shot. Eli comes out this joint. He
Yeah,
does
yeah.
a vanilla kick thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. There was two miracles in one play, bro.
Right.
So it's really wild because I'm the black guy who can't jump. I had a 31 inch jump, 31 inch vert on my pro day. They gave me a
Man.
third chance to jump. I want you to understand. They was like, man, do that again. Because everything else, I can hang clean 365. I can squat 565. This
Yeah.
don't make no sense why you can't jump, black man. You know what I'm saying? So
Man.
story, bro. Um, it was an absolute miracle in relation to when I never even saw the replay.
Mm.
Immediately after the game, I'm giving Eli all the credit because I just knew it was a good catch and I knew I had it.
Yeah.
I never saw a replay until I got back to the hotel.
Oh, man.
So what I will say is that I knew this was an opportunity. This is the biggest game of my life.
Right.
We need to win it. It didn't even mean anything until we won the game.
Right.
My, not my favorite play, but one of my favorite moments was having the opportunity to be the guy in victory formation,
Oh,
to be the
wow, yeah,
guy
yeah.
last play taking a kneel, and I'm on the field just being able to give God praise. So,
Man,
like, it it is all sacred and symbolic in relation to the journey, but now I get back to the hotel, and I finally just kinda get away, grab something to drink. They got the game on replay, and I just sit there, and look for a replay, and I finally see it. I'm like, "Oh, snap. I had no clue." So I had to be like, "Yo, man, give me some of that credit back. Give me some." Yeah.
man. Absolutely, man.
But it's to me, there's nothing like it. It's 2 miracles in one play.
Yeah.
It's a coming of age story for a young emerging quarter. It's like this is the greatest play to me in Super Bowl, and not just in Super Bowl history, in NFL history because of the pedigree of play and the narrative.
Mhm. Right,
And,
exactly.
you know, I like I said, I've been under the shadows out here loving God and raising the family. So now I'm coming for folk now. You know, folks be out here, but I think it's the standard when it comes to a catch as well as the greatest play.
Man, and like you said, the narrative of the undefeated team, and you've got Eli making his career highlight play, and he had a long career.
So
Obviously, I think he played the most, was it consecutive games as a quarterback in a row?
he did. He did.
Yeah.
It was tough to see that streak snap.
Yeah, man.
Because I know some of the
Hmm.
politics behind it.
Right, right,
And
right.
it didn't have to go down like that. But it went down like
Yeah.
that. um, you know, it was tough. But I mean, like when you think about someone who's more couldn't be more deserving, couldn't be the right guy at the right time. Temperament, everybody talks about, I mean, character,
True.
pedigree. He was the right guy for that team for that time. It takes a certain character to be able to navigate the torrent of New York City.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy for him. That's why I respect him so much. Of course, like I said, he's up for the Hall of Fame this year. So
Right.
there's an argument. There, there
Yeah, for
there's
sure, most definitely.
there's definitely an argument. But I believe he deserves to get in. I respect the argument for not first ballot,
Right,
but
right.
I respect the argument for it too. So it's just like when I look at this guy's journey, career, who he became. I think people have different metrics and standards for what a first ballot Hall of Famer is.
Yeah.
And that should be some dominance to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason if I was a voter, I'd be like, but as a friend, as a brother, do I believe? I'd be the first one to rejoice.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see him and Peyton, both being there,
Oh,
watching
he's
Eli
getting in. I think the question is when.
win.
I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, just a matter
yeah,
of
we'll
time.
see.
Yeah, for sure. Is it true that that was your last catch ever in the NFL?
Yeah, that wasn't the plan, bro. That wasn't the plan. But you know what? It took a lot, man, because for me, I got radically transformed after my rookie year after the rest, and my
Yeah, yeah,
life
yeah,
was
yeah.
it's like given to God.
Yeah,
And there's a weird phase of having this kind of radical transformation,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that was God's way of crowning me as
Oh,
his. And that's what the helmet catch really people don't understand
it's
what
like a
that means to me.
crown.
Brother, it's
Oh,
my crown. It's my
yeah.
Isaac.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, it's my Isaac, bro. And
Yeah.
so for me, I gave that back to God. And I
Man.
said, when I came back from Arizona, I said, God, all I want is more of you. I just want to know you. So I came
Yeah.
back, got away from all the noise because I was blessed. Obviously, I'm in demand. Going to Ella show, Jimmy Kimmel, all this stuff. It's
Yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And the world is open, but that's how radical I was for Christ. I gave it back to God, and the reward was going into a valley. So I had an injury
Mhm.
about a month after the Super Bowl, if that. So I got to enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and just but then he introduced me to suffering. So
Mm.
that's more on the sacred side. But at the end of the day, it's like that thing means a lot to me. So at least to have it be my last catch, I don't know if there's nothing I could have done when I look at what I experienced in the National Football League. I mean, trust me, my goal was to build on that and continue to
Yeah,
prove that I can be, that
right.
reliable third wideout. My goal was third wideout and dominate on special teams. I had
Yeah,
different
yeah.
goals. I wasn't even trying to be the guy.
Right.
It's like, so, because I loved what I did. I loved
Yeah, man.
nailing the joker. It's something about it. Remember had a nice solid scoop. Reggie Bush felt fight light as a feather. Just scoop. Just so it was the game is great, man. I loved it. I played it to the glory of him from the moment that I was able to lay hold of him. So
Yeah,
he determined that would be my last catch. And
man.
5 years, I was an all pro, special
Yeah,
team rookie of the year. There
yeah,
was no more accolades to get. And
man.
he allowed me to enjoy my swan song season with the Ravens, amazing franchise, and just return. So it was almost like closure.
Yeah,
So,
man.
I you know, I was hopeful that another team I had a couple teams reach out, but I wasn't in training camp. I wasn't with a team in the off season. So by the time training camp went around, I didn't have like this burning passion to just train. I love
Right.
being a part of a team. I love the game, but just train. I got four kids at home. I'm like,
Yeah, man.
I love being with my family. I love my
Oh,
wife.
man.
Obviously I got
Absolutely.
7 now. So, whew. Oh, trust me, grinding, brother. So it's been a good journey. The catch is and there's so much more to share. That's the season I'm in right now, just trying to get to a place where I can share more with what God has done with this
Man.
amazing moment.
Yeah, let's definitely transition. I was planning on doing it. You kinda mentioned it, the arrest. You called it your road to Damascus moment. Whenever you got pulled over, you saw them lights in the back. You said all you could picture was, "Oh, here go ESPN talking about David Tyree getting pulled over." What was that moment like for you? Because, having a podcast where I listen to a lot of testimonies, I actually had one very similar. Guy stopped in traffic, had marijuana on him.
Mhm.
And he was calling out to God, like, please, God, if you get me out of this, one of them moments. And that changed his life. What was that moment like for you? When you felt Christ kind of tugging on your heart, and that's when your whole life kind of changed in that sense.
Yeah, I think, I wasn't raised religious at all.
Man.
And so, you know, Syracuse got this dry mass, you just participate.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
full-blown blackout artist and drunkard. Get to
Mhm.
the NFL and they got chapel, and I've been to church a couple times, don't get me
Yeah, yeah.
wrong, most people are familiar when they hear that word and they feel like it's talking to them, we all ignoring.
Right, right.
Um, but I was not, like I said, I had the option not to go, bet. Be a good American, be a good human, and morality was my guise. I believed in a God because the world is too majestic, but, all roads lead to heaven, all kind of demonic
Oh,
doctrine,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so by the time I got to the NFL, I jumped into a chapel and I did actually make a confession of faith, but I
Mm,
knew I wanted the glory. I knew I wanted what I was due.
mm.
Like, so my rookie year, I got introduced to Christianity, but it says you confess with your heart and you believe and you confess it with your mouth and you believe in your heart unto
Right,
righteousness.
right.
So what I say is, man, you make a confession, Satan is hot on your trail.
Oh, yeah.
And
Most
but
definitely.
only God knows the heart and
Yep.
and whether we actually believe, whether we actually yield and surrender is what permits the Holy Spirit to come in and do that regenerative work.
Right.
And none of that happened in my life. I was unchanged,
Mm,
unrepentant.
mm.
I would go to Michael Barrow's house on a Monday night. He would have a fellowship because we had off on Tuesdays, and he actually lived in my hometown. So I didn't even move. He right in Montclair. I'd drink a beer too, maybe, get a little bit and go up in fellowship, be in the
Mm.
back over here trying to get a little word.
Man. Yeah.
Just out of pocket, man, just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
unchanged. And, but yeah, by God's grace, I was just who I was, man. And he gave me success my rookie year. I was miserable off the field. And
Mm.
when I say miserable, not in emotions, I was indulging in sin, indulging in pleasure. Now I had money to amplify all my vices, money, alcohol, marijuana.
Right.
And so after getting hit with fines, I just said, you know what? I'm gonna sell this. I got the best bud. We're gonna sell it. So
Ooh,
that's what I did for a little bit in the off season. Came back. Ryan Clark was my only teammate that I was really kicking with. So Ryan's killing the game right now.
absolutely.
Um, I kind of live vicariously through him because he's like the New Orleans version of me. And so I'm living vicariously watching his success. And no one, we all got our portion, but that's my dude. So
Yeah.
I go to visit him, come back to re-up, get a pound, a half a pound, can't remember. And next thing you know, I'm there. So I just knew at that moment, I had a lot of freedom. I had a lot of autonomy my whole life.
Yeah.
And I have amazing parents, and they were just supportive. They taught me the right things, but again, they didn't have certain things to give either, right? They didn't have a Christ high view to give 'em. They
Right.
had morality.
Yeah.
And so I desired the right things. And in that moment, I realized, hey, man, you've been the captain of your ship the whole life, and this is where it's got you.
Ooh,
And when I'm sitting there in that jail cell, that was it. I'm just
man.
like, God, all I know is I need you. And if you allow me to keep my job, I'd appreciate that too. That was my simple prayer.
Yeah, man.
I wish and that was the beginning that set the domino, and the Lord just began to open up the floodgates for an encounter.
Man, yeah, and the encounter, that's what I was gonna touch on too. The encounter is so huge because a lot of times, like you said, we kinda hear the word, we hear it, and I was the same way because I'm a Christian hip hop artist now, but
Don't
14 years I was secular, and I would always have people tell me, "Man, you should rap for God, you should rap for," and I was like you, I had the morals,
Yep,
I try to keep everything clean and positive, but being in me and the light in a dark world just didn't work. I would always stumble, I would always fall back into my thing was drunkenness, my thing was alcohol, um, lust, things like that nature.
yeah,
But the encounter is so huge because yeah,
man,
people can beat the word into you all day, but if you don't encounter it for yourself, you're probably not gonna change. Like it doesn't work. So
so
man, that
true.
yeah, the
Well,
encounter is so huge, and that's kinda like what I testify on now, and the whole reason for having a podcast is to for other people to share their encounters as well, because
yes,
that's usually what
yeah,
happens is, "Man, I was doing this or I was doing that, and I called out to God or God pulled me out of it." It was just so it's amazing. I always love hearing testimonies and stories,
man,
because everybody has a different story, but we all came back to Christ, like and that
yes,
that was, like, the whole premise for, the podcast, and Stay Focused was just me telling myself, like, "Okay, now I gotta stay focused on God." Colossians 3:2, "Set your mind on the things above, not earthly things," is the whole reason for what I'm doing now, the whole ministry and everything like that. When you go to speak or, to reach the youth, what is some advice that you may give to someone who may be struggling with substance abuse or, hasn't found that way out of it yet?
you know, I think the struggle I think number one, beliefs. We have to. I always try when I think about the bondage, right? Because these are
Mhm.
there's a, everybody got their own brand of bondage, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
so whether it's when we consider the struggle, number one, understand that it's a common struggle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Understand that it's a common struggle, whatever your struggle is. So now with that, not only is God willing and able, but if we could believe and keep what I love, this is a scripture that that has blessed me in the entire pursuit of these 20 years that I've been serving Christ. I mean, as a new creation, I've been burning for God my entire 20 years.
Man.
I I can say by his mercy and his kindness, I have not had a backslidden moment.
Ooh.
So, and it's really because Jesus says, if you keep my commandments,
Yes, sir.
me and my Father, we will come and abide with you. And if he
Mm,
says, and he says, if you keep my commandments, I will reveal myself to you. I will manifest myself to you. So the whole journey is keeping the commandments. Just
right. Just
obedience for
obey.
obedience
Yeah,
sake.
yeah.
Obedience for obedience sake. It's not gonna feel good all the time. It's gonna be arduous, and there's gonna be times, but if we could actually believe that he is actually with us,
Man.
like, see, it only when Jesus says he's with us to the end of the age, it only matters when you don't sense that he's with you or you don't
Oh,
feel that he's with you. That's when it matters the most. Now you actually have to believe his word as opposed to the knowing that you're kind of like you feel like God's with you because you're favored, as opposed to times where maybe I don't really realize this or I'm in a stricken or afflicted place.
man.
God is genuinely able to reveal himself. And it's the moment where we lay hold of him where we cease to be ourselves. And that's where the bondage breaks. I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
we have this love affair with ourselves and the things of the world that creates opportunities for the enemy to come in. Now, I want to, just remind the audience that Satan's a legalist. So
Mhm.
that's what sin is really meant to do. Lawlessness.
Yes.
It creates an open entryway for him to come in and afflict. That's the reason why we got to forsake immorality, all of
Right.
it, right? Because you're just opening up. Like, life is hard enough. No one hits harder than life. So let's not open up any more doors for our adversary to come in and to afflict unnecessarily. And if we transgress, knowing that we're doing the wrong thing, it's not that we don't have forgiveness,
Man.
but Satan's going to come and say, "You see what they did? Boom! There's an open door for him to come in." That foothold will eventually become a stronghold. So when you leave the door open for that alcohol, when you leave the door open for the side piece, that's eventually going to become a stronghold, and now you're a captive to some kind of oppression, and God does not want that for his children.
Absolutely. First Peter, be sober minded, because the God of this world wanders around like a roaring lion,
Come on, bro.
seeking to devour. It's like that just shows you like
Right there.
he's waiting for you. He's waiting for you to mess up and just like you said, open that door to where he can just come in. And so we just, man, stay focused, man. That's the whole
Yeah,
ministry, the whole motto. What is
I
one
love
Bible verse that motivates you that comes to mind when, man, it just keeps you going that you like to share with others?
Whoo, man. I got too many, dog.
Yeah.
That's like a okay, so I I think my first one that I really grabbed hold of that has really cultivated not just my pursuit of Christ, but really my pursuit of humility. And, I realize, humility is hard to shape,
Yeah.
right? But the first scripture was when Paul says, "I became all things to all men that I might by all means save some." And as a young believer, I don't know why my heart gravitated, but I understood Paul was willing to change for the sake of another salvation. I understood that very young. And meaning he wasn't allowed who he was to become a stumbling block for Christ. And I could tell you, and I'm still in this pursuit of Jesus, but I believe pursuing humility is pursuing Christ because so I don't have to pursue crowns. I can just pursue Christ and he's going to exalt the humble in due season. Right. So I think if I had to just choose one off the top of my head, that's the first one. That's the first one that kind of lit me up to say, man, like, well, you got to get out the way. Because
Yes.
when you're somebody in the earth, you know, the first thing we think is, oh, God gave me this platform. And it's not that he didn't, you
Right.
know, and that we're so desperate to be seen. And I get it. We have to have a healthy contribution to be
Absolutely.
useful, to not you gotta be useful, right? You gotta,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you know, the guy who's discipled me, he shared with me, said years ago, and it permeated my soul. He said, God's light is not lying. And he said it's 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 blinding and unapproachable. And so when we see the light and the countenances of God, we're blinded, just like Paul.
Yes.
His light is not lying. We cease to be ourselves. We're afflicted and we're smitten and we're overtaken by the wondrous majesty of his light. So I think that scripture, I think it's in First Corinthians 9, I become all things to all men, was one of the first that just kind of set my heart ablaze as a very young believer. That is a true mark in my journey has been just, man, I'm willing to be nothing for Christ's sake. Not
Oh,
nothing for
man.
nothing's sake. People don't understand
Absolutely.
humility, but I am willing to be nothing for Christ's sake.
Amen. Absolutely. 100% agree with that, man. Man, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule, man.
No.
Hey, stay safe. I'm not a cold weather fan, so I don't know how y'all do it up there, man, but you can keep that up there. I'm waiting for this 100-degree heat to come back. Uh,
That's good.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting,
Yeah,
man.
it's
But
brick
yeah,
up here right now. We out here running up on single digits in January.
yeah, no, I work in that. I'm not trying to be out there. I'm trying to be in there when I have to be now. not when I come out of there. But
I
yeah, man,
got
thank you so much for doing this, man. If y'all haven't, I'm gonna put the links in the description below. So if you're not a football fan, hey, go check out that highlight. And if you are, if you're not a Giants fan, I'm sorry. But this has been an amazing podcast. Like I said, it's been amazing to have an athlete back on, and not just an athlete, but someone who's an advocate for the faith, like yourself, man. So thank you so much for doing this, man.
Man, big love, brother. Praying for you, man. Continue to stay strong in the Lord. Let him
Absolutely.
continue to exalt your horn in due season, man, and stay focused, stay diligent,
That's
keep
it.
your eyes on the Lord, and be prepared for your next encounter, man. God
Ooh,
has an appointment for you.
that's it.
God has an appointment for you, man. So I appreciate the just the opportunity to stay in fellowship, man. When I'm in Texas, I'm gonna look you up.
Most definitely, bro. Thank you so much. Hey, stay focused and God bless y'all.
Salute.